Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. So we brought back the little talking head format. It's been a little while since I've done one of these, and I found out you can play around a little bit to shrink down the picture a little bit. I figured it makes a little bit more sense with the border anyway. Now, one thing that I thought was kind of funny, and this seems appropriate. I did record a video yesterday, which has been on the channel, so some folks have been supporting it already, which is wonderful. Thank you for that, as always. This is actually Hobby Talk number 100. I thought this was what it gave occasion to, and I made reference to it in that video number 99. I made reference to having an idea for a video that I wanted to do that was a bit more of a talking head. I thought about doing the the BIC podcast episode, but as I started thinking about it a little bit more, I thought, okay, there's a couple of things that I could share with you that I think might be interesting, a clip that I'd like to play for you. So as I thought about it a little more, I said, okay, let's use this format. And actually, this plays perfectly into what I want to talk about. Now, one quick side note, this will be the last time I put a numbering on the thumbnail for those, because I figure after 100 it's kind of redundant. I did kind of want to get to 100, though. I thought it'd be kind of cool and kind of fun for me. Again, a lot of these things, and the key to this title is going to be a revisiting of an old video that I made that I'm going to play a clip for you. So it'll make more sense once I get into it. Because I went back and rewatched it, and I stand by pretty much 95% of what I said in there. So it was really good. It was very gratifying to see that it held up very nicely over time. But it's a video that kind of got lost in the shuffle of hundreds of videos since then. And I kind of want to bring it back a little bit because I think it's very pertinent. It's just as pertinent as it's ever been. And I think that's kind of fun. And the video was hobby content, know your why. And I think this is very important. So I'll explain what inspired this. Dakota, Sports Card Anonymous, who's been on the channel and who I've participated and been on his channel before. We've collaborated back and forth, and we kind of chat and hang out in the Discord and everything. Did a live stream yesterday where he announced that he's effectively YouTube retiring, so to speak. Which I went back. I went and listened to a lot of it. I was kind of sitting back on it. I didn't catch most of it live. I was actually watching the AEW episode, but I did hear about it, and then I said, okay, I'm going to go back and check it out. So hopefully he enjoys his retirement. We were going to get him a gold watch. But then we realized two things. YouTube doesn't make a lot of money. And secondly, if we had got him a gold watch, probably one of us would have had to pawn it. Economics, the economy and all that. So we would have had to pawn it anyway, so he would have never gotten it. The point is the thought was there. We thought about getting a gold watch. Neo was going to pay for most of it. But again, we thought better of it. But that said, I understood a lot of the reasons that he gave for it, and I respect them, and I think they're reasonable and fair. Now, there's some things I agreed with that he came up with in the course of talking with the audience in the chat, and there's some things that I didn't quite agree with. But at the end of the day, it's the goal of this video is not to sit there going bullet point by bullet point. There are a couple, though, that I thought were interesting that I want to talk about specifically, and I'm going to focus mainly on kind of my approach to the channel, so that's where I'm going to fit and stick in that lane. And then also this clip that I'm going to play for you, because I think it is just as pertinent that now as it was back then. So let me play the clip first, and then I'll elaborate and talk about a couple of things over the course of this one. So this is going to be more of a talking head one, and it's also going to be discussion a little bit on some decisions that I have made in the channel over time, and some things that I'd like to do. And it's a little bit, it's almost like a state of the channel along with. So spoiler, I'm not retiring because frankly, I don't need to. I'm very comfortable with kind of the approach that I've taken to the channel. There were some decisions that I've made along the way, which I stand by and continue. And this video that I'm going to play for you actually outlines them very nicely because a lot of the pillars that I outlined in this still apply today, which is wonderful. It's always good when we have some consistency. We do love our consistency. So let's do a little share here. I'm going to set it up so that I can share the tab. So the video itself is called Hobby Content Know Your Why, my response, my thoughts. I think I stopped using the my thoughts after a little while, but it's still valid here. So I'm going to skip ahead most of the video towards the tail end here, but there's a clip it. And by the way, if you're checking it out, you're going to notice that this is the old setup here because this was from back in December of 2020. So we're getting close to 2 years since I made this video. And at the time, I made the video with a recent acquisition at the time, this Sony a6400 camera. And I'm going to come back and talk about this a little bit because it plays a little bit into this content philosophy thing and some explanation I want to give about it and some thoughts. And I'm open to any comments or questions you have on it, but allow me to explain a little bit and let's go through it. So let me play you this little clip it here. I've got it at normal speed, but then I'll talk about a couple of things here. Decide for yourself as the viewer what works for you. But one of the things I would suggest to you as a viewer is when you're watching the content, do a little critical analysis of it yourself and try to figure out, not only do I like it, because maybe you enjoy the person that's talking and maybe you enjoy their style or maybe you enjoy the way they do it, but the other thing you're going to ask yourself is, does the content align with what I perceive? Again, it's perception. We don't know these people. You're watching through a screen. But does it align with does their message align with what this content is doing? Does the content align with their message? Do the two seem to be in alignment or do they seem completely out of whack? Because I've seen a lot of content where
I'll hear one thing, but I'm seeing another, and they don't always match up. So I'm always weary, especially with the amount of content out there right now. That's the reason kind of I wanted to broach this subject with you. Is that I'll watch a lot of content, even the stuff I don't agree with, because I want to see what it looks like. I want to hear what it sounds like. And you can usually tell who is kind of in it to, I want to teach you, I want to entertain you, because you can teach or entertain, both are valid, or both ideally if you can. But who's there to do that? Who's there to share that information, share that knowledge, and who is there who they want to get their view count up and their subscriber count up? So it's a bit of a mixed bag. Everybody's going to take their own approach to it, and I'm not going to criticize anybody for it. But I'm just suggesting as a viewer, take your side of it, be critical, observe, and ask those questions, even if it's just asking them to yourself. That's kind of my suggestion to you.
Such wisdom. Such incredible wisdom. Man, that guy's smart. He knows his stuff. Big fan. Big fan. I'll include a link to that video in the description for you if you want to check it out. That is from back in December 2020. One other thing as well that I thought was kind of interesting when I went back and rewatched it, and if you do check it out, you'll probably get a bit of a kick out of it, because one of the things that I use some examples in it, and some of the examples I stand by, but one of the things you may notice if you go back and watch is that some of the channels I mentioned, I have had very critical things to say in the recent months and maybe the last year or so. And the thing is, I wanted to share it with you so that I could highlight my own hypocrisy. No, the reason I want to share it with you is because I stay consistent in my principles in it. That's why I wanted to play that specific clip. As time goes on and you get more information, you could be aligned and be comfortable with the way that a content or content provider is giving you their content to a certain point. As long as the two things feel like they're aligned, we're good. Well, things can fall out of alignment. You could start off with the purest of intentions as far as your channel is concerned, but you can lose that consistency. You can reach a point where you start leaning and focusing your content in certain directions. You start pivoting, you start changing different aspects of it. And this isn't like the whole hipster, like, oh man, I liked you before you guys were popular. It's more along the lines of, is there a bedrock? Is there something that is tethering you down to a basic tenet of the channel, and has that changed? Or are you still using it? Or maybe another analogy you can use, do you still have the same North Star that you're using to guide what you're doing? And one of the things that I've been very, very careful as I've gone on, even though I've done different types of content, even though I've adjusted certain elements of it over time, the core principles of what I'm trying to do haven't changed. Even though certain things obviously work really well, and I've been very happy and pleased with that, and I've seen a slow development of it. And what's funny is a good example of kind of this. I rewatched this video today to get myself reacquainted with it because it had been a while since I saw it. And I stand behind, like I said, 90 to 95% of what I said on there, it still to me applies to kind of the approach that I take to the channel. It's my North Star. It's what I try to do to maintain it. Now you can disagree. You can feel like, oh man, you changed this and this. Fair enough. And I'll take that feedback. But at the same time, like, I watch the videos, I do the editing on the videos and these things, and I feel like the general principle is still the same. I can change my mind on a content creator or a topic or something as more information comes in. And a lot of times that's what happens. I won't like the approach or the direction they're taking, so I will be critical of it. And that's always been kind of my thing, because I'm very leery to give complete trust. Because even in this video, I talk about it, and I'm very clear on this. I can say that I can like somebody's general approach, their personal approach, maybe get along with them extremely well, but then I look at their content and it doesn't feel like it aligns, it doesn't jive, or I don't like what they're doing content-wise. Or it could be a situation where I get to know this person a little bit more and I genuinely start to dislike kind of what they do, and their content also starts going in that direction. Then I really have a problem, obviously. Then the two things are both out of whack and I don't like either one of them. So you can have that weird balance between these different things. And that's human nature. That happens. That's why this whole thing is subjective. You can like what you like. I watch some people like praise something and I'll sit there like, but it sucks. But here's the thing. It sucks for me. Other people watch my stuff and they think it sucks. And it's like, well, fair enough. You don't like it. I get it. I'm not going to change it to cater to you. With all due respect, as precious as it would be to maintain your personal viewership of one, I have to think about what I want to do. I have to think about the videos that I want to make, and I have to make the stuff that I want to make. Otherwise, I won't be interested. And that's why I say, like, this discussion is going to kind of go in a couple of directions as far as talking about the general content concept. So I'll include a link to that in the description if you want to check it out. But kind of leading to my point, as the channel has grown and things have changed, that video did extremely well for me back then. That video has maybe 170, 180 views on it at the time that I'm recording this. My current video that I recorded yesterday, I recorded it in the middle of the night and then uploaded after midnight. So in reality, it hasn't even been a full 24 hours. Has not been a full 24 hours. it comfortably has more views than this other one. And I don't have the biggest channel in the world. I don't get thousands and thousands of views per video. I've been very happy though with the progression of the channel over time. I'm not complaining, but the point is that video to me was I really thought it was very well done. And I went back and listened to it, and a lot of it holds up for me. Like, I'm actually very pleased with the way that video turned out. Now, that video I actually recorded, like I said, with this camera that I bought about 2 years ago. And this camera at the time was like, I think it was a $1,500 Canadian camera. I think you can get it for about 900 US or thereabouts. And I'm going to share with you what's on top of this in a minute. But the point is, why am I recording this? So I recorded that video on this camera, and I'm recording this on StreamYard. Well, there's two reasons for that. Number one, it allows me to do the share screen, which you just saw, which I was able to capitalize and take advantage of. So there is a practical aspect to it. However, I could just downloaded this video, taken the clip, done the recording with this, and then spliced in the piece, and then come back and done some more editing. I chose not to do that. And this is going to play into kind of the point that I wanted to get at. So, and I'll come back to the equipment thing in a minute, but I just want to make a point on that. So I chose not to do that. And the reason I chose not to do that is because while the philosophy of the channel, the core tenets have not changed, how I've taken the approach to the channel has. I've become a lot more practical and pragmatic about it. The reality is, and this is something that came up in Dakota's live stream where he talked about, a lot of his reasons. A lot of it is, he wants to focus on family. He's got other priorities, and all those things are completely valid and completely understandable. And one of the other things that he included amongst a long list of things, is that he felt like his time wasn't effectively being used comparatively to the return of investments, so to speak, in terms of what he felt he was getting out of the channel versus, the time he was putting into the content, which is a very valid thing for content creators to feel. You feel like you're putting in so much time and so much effort, but you don't feel like the return is there, not even necessarily financially, but it could be just, like I'm working my ass off, and like I put in all this extra time, I buy all this equipment, it costs all this money, and then like, okay, maybe it's 500 views before, and now it's like 550 or 600. And it's like, was it worth it for all that extra? And that plays into kind of that point I just made. That video, to me, I really enjoyed making that video at the time. I felt really good about it. Very rudimentary editing on it, nothing crazy. But I was recording it on the camera. This camera can actually record in 4K. So it's actually quite a nice camera for the job. And you can replace the lenses and have a lot of options and flexibility. It's actually quite nice. And I fully intend to go back to using this again. But I'm very practical. How much time is it going to take me? Like a video like this will probably, right now doing it this way, I can pretty much record it in real time. I may do a little bit of editing, but it's going to be very minimal. I'm going to download this file, and I'm going to basically, maybe cut out a clip here and there. But for the most part, we're doing this in one take. So it means that however much time I end up talking in this video, when I go to do the edit, I'm going to quickly zip through it if I need anything, add the little, outro thing at the end, upload it, and we're off. Like, I don't need to spend much more time. So I've got this streamlined flow. So I'm not really making use out of this right now. Isn't to say that I don't intend to. And I've had ideas for videos that I thought would be really cool. Videos, by the way, that I have put on the channel, that I have recorded. And you, hopefully some of you have seen them, hopefully. But the point is, I've made them. And maybe they're 20-minute videos or 30-minute videos, whatever. But I had this vision at the same time. I go, well, it'd be kind of cool. Maybe if I use the camera, I could record it, and then I could record like a segment of it in my patio, and then get different vantage points, and then do another piece over here, and then do another piece over there. The content, to be clear, would be identical. I could even throw in some B-roll and throw in something. I'm not a super great editor, but I could figure out a couple of things here and there and maybe make it kind of visually interesting and everything. But honestly, I'm just asking, if I had done that, the same video that I already did, how many extra views would it have gotten for all that extra time and effort? The time to storyboard it, the time to do all the recording, the time to record all those clips, come back into the editor, splice it together, do all that, for what? The channel is monetized, but like 100 extra views, that's like 20 cents? Like, how much extra work are you going to have to put in? How much equipment are you going to have to buy to try to make, and you make it look real nice, and it looks real good, and it's like, oh man, it's fancy, and for what? Or I could record it on StreamYard, talk to you. Now, that doesn't say I haven't upgraded elements of my setup. Right now you're seeing this, this is being recorded in 720 because I put the StreamYard, I use the first paid option instead of the second. Maybe down the road I'll switch it, If enough of you hit the join membership, which by the way, you get nothing. Just to be clear, you get nothing. Except my appreciation. That's it. That's all you get. But I have a light here like an Elgato key light, which helps light me up a little bit better so it doesn't look as dark and grainy. So that's, I use that on the live stream as well, so I get my value out of that. This microphone is an upgrade. If any of you are kind of OG to the channel, this microphone is the second one that I got. I think it's an Elgato as well. It's a very nice microphone, though. It works really well. I like it, and I can kind of be hands-off. If you guys remember the old school live streams, I used to have the arm like this one, but because of the old microphone, the way it was set up, I would accidentally bump it, and you could get the gong. So if you remember the gong from the old live streams. But this setup is a little bit better because it allows me to hand talk since I'm going to. Just naturally I do it. But it allows me to do it without necessarily hitting the arm. It's a little bit cleaner of a setup. So I have improved elements of this. Elements of it have improved. But, the microphone has a set cost, but I get to use it so often now. That's why I do a lot of the screen share videos. If you've ever seen a lot of them. A lot of them is me talking for a while, but I'll do the screen share thing. Using the StreamYard allows me to do the screen share, but with audio included. So like with that clip, I was able to play it. I literally was able to go to the YouTube channel and play it for you. Cue it right up to the spot, hit play and go. It's a little bit behind the scenes. But the point of doing it this way is to simplify and speed up my ability to make the video, not spend too much time on it, where I feel like if I felt like I was slaving over it, and at the end of the day, it gets about the same amount of views, it would be very frustrating. It would be completely understandable to feel that way. That isn't to say I don't have aspirations, and that leads me to this other thing right here. So right on top, this is a little Rode little wireless pack thing. They come in pairs, and I think there's one where you can get 3. And this is something I played around with, but I've never used it on the channel. Just to tell you though, like still have aspirations of playing around with some of this stuff because I would love to use it. And I could see this being cool for the expo. So maybe in the fall, I could really capitalize on this, although I'd like to use it in a video before that. But what this one does is it allows you to connect to the camera, and then you can actually connect the other unit to it. So that's this thing here, and wirelessly, either have it, connected right here. You could put a little clip on it and have a microphone pointing at you, or you could actually connect a little lapel microphone to it and then do wireless communication straight to this, and you get the audio. Pretty cool. But and this stuff is maybe $200 for this thing. Like the camera itself has got a certain price point. I've got extra battery packs and things, so it's not like I've invested in this equipment. But one of the key points, and this is something where I kind of disagreed. With the premise of part of the live stream is, and I don't think this was mentioned in the live stream specifically, but it's something that's come up offline, is that the idea of I'm investing X in the channel, therefore I would like to see return Y, which I understand. As a person on this side of it, I completely, totally get. But I also understand as a viewer, you don't care. You can spend $500,000 on a beautiful studio with perfect soundproofing, all that good stuff, and it doesn't matter. The content is going to be the content. That's still going to be the bottom line. Honestly, a lot of times it's going to be like, well, the content. And by the way, some people are going to like the content, some people aren't. And then there's one more thing I want to touch on here, and I'll kind of wind down on that one. One other thing, by the way, that I liked about it is that since I was doing it right up against the window, you got the train. So I don't know, off in the distance, I think Paul, one of my regulars, is like, you got the train. You got a little train cameo in there, even from an old video from almost 2 years ago. So there you go, train cameo. Hashtag train. But the point is that when you're doing a lot of this stuff, I reached a point where I was looking at it. I had this lovely equipment that I like playing around with gear and stuff like that. It's fun. But at the same time, I was like, okay, is it practical for me to put the extra effort to use this every time and then have to get into the editor, do all this stuff to make it work, maybe do color correction and things. I'm not super fancy with editing, but it would be something that would make it look a little nicer. Like that video, the old one was a little bit dark. It would have been nice to lighten it up a little bit and make it look a little cleaner. I could have done a little bit with it, but like at the end of the day, I put it up the way it was. I'm satisfied with it. But that isn't to say you couldn't do more. But at the same time, it's like, well, how many hours in the day do you have? For a lot of us, this is not a job. This is a hobby inside a hobby. And for me, it's a lot of fun. What has sustained me in this time and be able to still do videos, hundreds of videos since that one, is that I still like doing this. It's still fun for me. But I also understand I only have so many hours in the day, and I really don't want to spend all of them editing. And the return on investment, like literal return on investment, is very minimal. Even channels much bigger than mine don't make that much money. So it's one of those things where you can't be doing it for the money, because if you are, you'd be better off going to McDonald's. By the hour, you'd be much better off. But that's okay as long as you're enjoying what you're doing, as long as there's some fun into it. And if you get a little bit kickback from AdSense and stuff once in a while, that's awesome, because it basically pays for the StreamYard and it pays, for some of the stuff over time eventually. I think I've made the money back from the Rode one by now, I think. But I haven't had the chance to use it yet. So, but at least it's paid off. So that's good. But the general thing when it comes to making the videos and everything is that I think you have to figure out, again, going back to that original video concept, you have to figure out why you're doing this thing. And that's going to be crucial because that's going to then either power you or demotivate you if you can't hit whatever targets you're shooting for. It was never a subscriber count for me because my content is going to naturally limit it. I'm willing to be more contentious than most people, especially on my live streams, and I really get to be contentious. I get to be ornery. It's wonderful. By the way, sometimes I'm just flat out trolling because it's fun for me. But I don't mind doing it. Like, whatever. I don't really care. If I piss everybody else off in the hobby, what do I care? But at the same time, it's fun for me to be able to then produce the content that I want to produce. I prefer long form content. It's more fun for me, but it is not as palatable. It is not as accessible. For some people, they don't have the attention span or the interest to sit through it and deal or watch the whole thing. Or maybe the topic doesn't hit because it's not. This is where I get to use one of those little cut edits. It's not one of those topics that is very quickly digestible. The more digestible a topic is, a nice quick 5 to 10 minute video that covers something snappy, maybe some quick cuts, boom, 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 and there you're out the door. Great. That tends to be a lot easier to digest. It's a lot easier to get a viral video out of that, and it works. Like, to be clear, the thumbnails with the goofy faces, it works. Like, I can't argue that it works. I don't like doing it. Thumbnails are one of those things that I'm really lazy about it. I kind of use you see from the thumbnails, I kind of use the same image and just modify the template a little bit. I'd like to say that I put more effort into it, but I probably won't. Because again, I've got to think about, well, how much time is it going to take me to do that versus what's the return in energy, and like, is it really going to make that much of a difference for me in the channel that I'm trying to build or that I'm doing? Probably not. And if it doesn't feel like it's worth it, then I'm not going to put in that much. The video is already long enough. Like, I took the time to make the content. It's not all that extra stuff around it would be a nice to have, but it's not necessarily what I'm in it for or what I need to do. Now, the last thing is, going back to the idea of the why, is that, and I mentioned in that video, there are channels who are looking for certain subscriber count milestones or trying to make it like worthwhile to monetize it. In this niche, it doesn't work. You really would struggle. It's not even just compared to the top end of this genre, being a tier 1 creator in that genre. Even the tier 1 creators are small by YouTube standards. If you really wanted to make any real money out of it, you basically would have to be sponsored by a variety of companies in the space. The money in sponsorship isn't as crazy as you might think. It really isn't, not in this space, because with the amount of views you get here, really, you don't have that much leverage. That's why I did a video some time ago where I did the MKBHD thing about it. Well, a channel like that has offers for big sponsorship. So when they decide to do one, then that could be totally worthwhile. Well, they're probably going to get more money for one sponsorship than most YouTube channels will make in a year, even if they have sponsorships, affiliate links, all that good stuff. So we have to kind of be realistic. It has to be treated as a side hustle at best. And then you kind of go from there. And every person's going to have to figure out what works for them. Now, the last piece I want to touch on real quick, and then I'll end it on this one, was the idea of, kind of the redundant content and all that, which I understand, but I will say it is something that I'll hear from time to time, and I don't disagree with it, but at the same time, I feel like it's disingenuous because it always comes from the people who think they're being mavericks and coming up with fresh new content. And they'll be told they're coming up with fresh new content. I'm like, this is not fresh new content. The harder you try to be fresh and new, somebody's already done that video. You talk about these inserts and things that no one else has heard of. I can find that video. I can find it. It's obscure, and the reason that you didn't see it is because no one watched it. Nobody cared the first time it was made. So it's one of those things. Again, that could be extremely frustrating. That's my opinion. Like, I've seen topics where somebody would be like, I've never heard anybody talk about this. It's like, I assure you I have. I can pretty much guarantee you I have. And if I go searching hard enough, I can probably find it. But no one watched it. What you're going to notice is the view count is low. And the reason the view count is low because no one cared. And that kind of also leads into kind of, just, again, speaking only for my channel and nobody else's, part of the reason I like doing some of the newsy stuff and stuff like that is that as long as I've been in the hobby and done this, I don't even enjoy watching videos that fixate specifically on like sets or whatever. If they're made by like friends and folks that I want to support, I'll watch it to support them, hit the like button, all that good stuff, maybe leave a comment. But truthfully, I don't enjoy that content. I don't care about it. And the reason I don't care about it is because if I want to collect a set or something, I'll just go look it up myself. So I don't really use YouTube for research purposes, but obviously some people do. But it's going to be your mileage may vary. So it's one of those things where you got to figure out, A, if you're a content creator, what are you creating the content for? That's kind of the first thing. The second one is if you're a viewer, okay, so what is it you're looking to get out of it? Do you want to be entertained? Do you want to be informed? Do you want a little bit of both? Oftentimes it's a little bit of both. It just depends on the individual. Do you just want background noise? That could be a thing as well. But the other piece of it, like just looking at it, it's funny because a lot of that content they talk about, and this came up when we had the card ladder guys with Chris Hoge and the whole scholarly content thing, and I just sat there like, okay, great, it's a neat idea to have the scholarly content, and fine. Who the hell actually wants to watch it? He does, clearly. But it's one of those things like, okay, so who else? We can probably find some people, but it goes back almost to that same idea as those videos talking about those obscure sets from the 90s. It's like, it's cool information, but and again, maybe it's my view is clouded by having, grown up in that era. When I think about it, it's like, I wasn't a football guy, I wasn't a basketball guy, but I still knew about some of those, insert sets and stuff because in Beckett and Tough Stuff and whatever, in the ads, you would have effectively the equivalent of a sell sheet. The magazines themselves would do previews of all this and give you like, okay, we open a box and this is what we pull. This is what you can expect to pull in a box. These are the odds for the different inserts and stuff. So you'd get that information. If you really wanted to look it up, it was all there. Or you could get one of those annual guides and it'll give you the odds on it. And, oh, this is a 1 per case hit. Oh, okay, cool. The information's out there. So it's one of those things where like, I understand from the perspective of, oh, well, make it accessible to people and like put it in their face so they have it. Oh, I didn't even realize that was an insert. Fair enough. But it's one of those things like, okay, well then do some research. If you're into that sport or whatever and you want to find some of these hidden gems, so to speak, well, go do some research. Or maybe just ask directly and somebody can do the research for you and build it out. But the idea that, like, you're discovering this undiscovered treasure that is like, it's sitting on millions of copies of magazines and in sell sheets and in advertisements from the 90s. If you were raised in that era, you probably saw it, you probably just don't remember it because it wasn't that important to you at the time. Now, nostalgically, you look back on it and, oh, man, I remember that set. So that's why sometimes I'll go look at it. Yeah, I remember that one. Even though it's a different sport that I didn't collect. It's like, yeah, I remember it. I saw the ad for it and I was looking through it. Sometimes I would scan the ad because the ads were really well done at certain points. They would do a really good job building them up. And you could actually see what some of those inserts look like. And they were kind of neat. Even if you couldn't see them in person at the card shop or whatever, it was kind of a fun way of doing it. Some of them were better than others, but some of them did actually a really good job giving you a little bit of an indication of what that upcoming set would include. And there would be articles and things about it. And it's not like the information doesn't exist. It's sports cards. It's not the holy grail. It's not this hidden thing like, and it's sports cards from 30 years ago. It's like, we didn't kill off everyone who knew these dark secrets. If it's maybe an obscure vintage set, I could totally understand that being a thing because some of that scholarship hasn't been done. But something that happened contemporarily, that was contemporary to the 90s, where we had magazines and articles and things written about it, the information was out there. So that's why I say like videos like that, they don't appeal to me, but I could certainly see that for others it might appeal. And if that's the case, well then I would say for those that do get the chance to watch some videos made by people that cater to that, well then really, if you appreciate and enjoy that kind of content, I advocate for you to like, subscribe, and encourage people to watch the video because that is going to be the indicator to the person making it. Hey, we like this. We want to see more of it. Because you do get to vote with your wallet. You get to vote with your wallet, so to speak, and your attention. Your attention is going to be the indicator of, okay, this works. We want to see more of it. Show us this. And that's going to be indicative. It's going to be more so than, oh man, I wish somebody would make this. But then every time somebody makes it, you ignore it. Because the numbers don't lie. Because a lot of that stuff used to be made and people would talk about these things. And the videos that do showcases and do all this, they get less views than than that boring derivative newsy stuff. As soon as you put PSA in the title, more people click on it. That's not our fault as people that are making videos. We're not the ones clicking on it hundreds and thousands of times. I suppose we could, but that'd be a hell of a way. It'd be nothing more than a fake vanity metric then. But if other people are clicking on it and commenting on it and responding to it, positively or negatively, the proof is in the pudding. The content is a reflection of what the audience is showing interest in. If you show interest in something else, the trends will shift in that direction. Again, just my opinion. Like, I could totally be wrong. I'm not on this. The numbers have borne themselves out over time. But again, I'm open to hearing any thoughts or comments you might have on it. Old school, we went old school, longer video here on this one. And we did it with minimal editing, hopefully, maybe just that little cut there. Otherwise, like if you like the video, subscribe to the channel. More videos come up on the channel. Again, the next hobby talks and everything will no longer be numbered. I just don't want to keep going past 100. I feel like 100 is good. But yeah, if there's any other topics or anything, though, that you'd like me to touch on, I'd be happy to. I'm open to suggestions if there's something that you'd like to really see done. I'm still going to do the newsy videos and stuff because, frankly, I like doing them. Talking about kind of the industry and stuff is what interests me. Even as I collect and everything, like, okay, why do you collect that set? because I like it. I think the design's neat. Like, there's not that much to it. There's really no depth. It's like, it's just a personal subjective thing. That's why I'm always been less interested in making those videos. Isn't to say I won't make showcase videos in the future. I will, and I've got some planned, but it's just never been quite as interesting to me, either to watch or to make. So, but everybody's going to be different in that regard. So anyway, okay, so that's it for me. Thanks as always. I appreciate any support you give to the channel one way or the other, even if it's your attention, that's free. Or the join button if you want to shamelessly throw your monies at me. Shamelessly. The more shamelessly, the better. Shamelessly. But yeah, no, if you do like the videos and stuff, just share them or hit the like button and that works. You know, that's good enough. And that helps at least, you know, slowly over time. I'm happy to see the channel hopefully grow a little bit at a time. And that's all I'm really shooting for in this thing. Because again, it is a hobby and a hobby. It's its own thing. We do what we need to do. Like I said, more videos coming up on the channel. And then on Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern time, back to do the usual thing. This week, I guess we're going to talk about an 86 Fleer box, even though I didn't want to. But I guess we're going to end up talking about an 86 Fleer box that has been messed with, and then baseball card exchange, Steve Hart again. Oh, G.I. Joe, it could have been anything else. No, probably not that part. But outside of that, yes. Anyway, thanks very much. We'll catch you in the next one.